بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ومن يطع الله ورسوله ويخشى الله ويتقي فأولئك هم الفائزون صدق الله العظيم وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الناس معادن كمعادن الذهب والفضة أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. This brief talk is entitled Our Youth, Our Future. Think of a vast land, and there's so much of capability and ability in this land for wonderful crops to come about, which will be beneficial to humanity. But if this land is not worried about, and it is just left to become a forest full of bush, animals, serpents, insects, in reality it is a waste of land. Our youth, they are like a vast land upon which so much of agriculture can be done. And the produce from them can be so beneficial. Fruit and vegetables are very beneficial. Their actions and their outlooks can be beneficial to themselves and to the humanity. But if these youth are not harnessed and they are not cared for, they are not given the due attention. I'm not saying not given attention, not given the due attention, the correct attention, then unfortunately, just like that land gone to waste, and it becomes a burden to humanity, it becomes dangerous for mankind. Likewise, the youth will start biting the people in society, they will start biting the people in their home, and they will self-destruct. It's interesting to understand how did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam view the youth. And it's also more interesting to understand how mankind in these modern times view the youth. When we will go down the passage of comparison, then we'll see what injustice is upon the youth. Currently we are crying, and it is necessary that we cry what is happening to the men, women, youth and children in Palestine. We shed blood for that. There we will say it is oppression. It is zulm, qat'an zulm. It is outright oppression. We don't agree with it. But the end result of that oppression is that man, that woman, that young man and those children are going to paradise, they're going to Jannat. But there's another form of oppression. This form of oppression might not be by the means of bombardment from some fighter jet. It might not be a type of attacking with the tank, but it is a subtle bombardment of our youth who from a young age don't know anything, and they are forced in a certain direction. The outcome of the one in Palestine is paradise. Allah forbid, it must not be that the outcome of the one in our own midst is opposite to paradise. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam viewed the youth with another eye. And today, humanity views the youth as a cash cow. Even the parents of the child, I want this child to grow up so that he or she can benefit me financially. I want my child, or society wants our children to get education, get a job, have a family, so that he or she will grow up to want for their children education, have a job and have a family. And then the entire process continues. Can you see a similarity with the wild kingdom out there? Don't they just have little cubs, little calves to grow up, to become adults, to have calves, to grow up, to have calves, to grow up? This is cow mentality. The thought that I just want youth to have a happy life. Indeed, to a certain extent, every parent wants security from his child. Every person wants his child to have a family and continue. To a certain extent, we can place a tick in the box, to a certain extent. But if that mentality becomes the be-all and the do-all, which now we say is a capitalistic mentality, then unfortunately, we are heading for disaster just like that plot of land. The sports industry, all of them have got their eye on the youth. We need young players. And when he reaches a certain age, now they tell him, write a book. Military, we need young soldiers. Fashion industry, their mind is on the woman and on the youth. Every now and then to come out with another style, if it means tearing the pants at the knees, no sane person will wear something like that. But because the mentality of the youth is understood that they are gullible, they are fashionable, and they just take whatever is presented with a brand name behind it. So the fashion industry is after them. The economic houses are after them. Education is also after them. When we went to school, many of you will agree with me, we started off with class 1. Then as time went by the time I had my own children, they're presenting something called grade R. And by the time my children grew up, they say, no, you must have grade RR. I don't judge the intentions of people, but I do know this much, that many places education is a business. You were getting it for 12 years, now you need a 14-year income. So humanity, the people who got this love for wealth and has got the love for the dunya, they only see the youth with this eye. In reality, this is a disservice that is done to the youth. Because that child doesn't know anything when it's growing up. It's told X, Y, Z, follow this, do that, you will go there, go that. Every one of the children of Adam alayhi salam, kullu mawludin yuladu ala al-fitra, they're born with this natural instinct of connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the parents, it is society that molds him to become what he is, and he perpetuates this. As one person, an individual, said this most succinctly. In reality, what we have done to the youth is either underusage or total abuse of them, of a commodity that could have brought us a great yield. My dear friends, there's no time to go into the depth, but just the word youth in different contexts in reference to the Quran Sharif. Obviously, the scholars seated here, and I draw support from their presence. There's about 9 different places where youth are just referred to, and then there's a whole host of other incidents in the Quran Sharif where youth have shown, Quran echoes, Quran says how they enjoyed the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this magnificent constitution, His word, Kalamul Muluk, Mulukul Kalam, royal word is a word of the royalty. Zalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fi, a book that doesn't even have a shadow of doubt. Allah Rabbul Izzat, in between there in different places, makes reference to youth. One place, قالوا سمعنا فتى يذكرهم يقال له إبراهيم. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a young man and he broke the idols. Then you find Ashabul Kahf. Innahum fityatun amanu bi rabbihim wa zidnahum huda. 7 youngsters taking succor and shade and protection in a cave for the savior of Iman. Surah Buruj, Qutila Ashabul Ukhdud, An-Nari Zatil Waqud. Verse and surah upon surah dedicated to youth. Yusuf alayhi salam and his brothers. An entire incident Allah refers to this particular surah. Ahsanul Qasas, best of incidents and stories, is about a young man. And how this young man, amidst everything else, resisted the temptation of zina. قالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. No time for tafsir. He is being seduced. At that time he remembers the favor of Allah and he remembers the favor of his master. Going on, young woman, she is given the tidings that you will bear a child. Maryam alayha salam, Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha. What's her age? 13, 14, young woman. Ya ukhta Haruna ma kana abuki imra'a saw'i wa ma kanat ummuki baghiya fa asharat ilay qalu kayfa nukallimu man kana fil mahdi sabiyya. This young woman, Quran mentions, open Surah Maryam, a surah that is named after a woman, a young girl. How Allah Ta'ala brought the miracle of no father through a youth. Then we come to the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know that the munafiqun, the hypocrites, how they wanted to, defame Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not only did they use physical torture. You must remember, propaganda. Listen to this word, propaganda is not only from now, it is used from those days. All those people who got the peril of Islam, one of their main tool is propaganda, to speak something else. What did they say? Na'udhu billah, summa na'udhu billah, Allah forbid that our mother, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, had incorrect relationship with somebody else. Allah, remember, Aisha loses Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 18. She's a young woman. Allah sends down 10 verses. Inna alladhina ja'u bil ifki usbatum minkum. The youth of the ummah enjoyed the protection of Allah in the Quran. My dear friends, open Surah Luqman. There, verse upon verse, Luqman alayhi salam's words, Ya bunayya, Ya bunayya, Ya bunayya, O my beloved son, a whole directive on how a father or a parent should guide his child, dedicated in the Quran. Ismail alayhi salam, and I'll come back to this towards the latter part of my talk because I've got something to say about that. Nuh alayhi salam, despite the fact that his son did not listen to him, but in the initial stages, when he's trying to win the heart of his son, Ya bunayya, irkam ma'ana, wa la takum ma'al kafirin, O my beloved son, showing that how he addressed his son, how he worried about the youth. In this case, in the balance of the verses I read, how the youth pleased Allah. This case, the youth turned their back on Allah. What is the outcome of them? My dear friends, you and I have to understand that the youth are an intrinsic part of this ummah. We have to change our opinion of them and guide them and take them in the right direction. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu is 8 years old, around there when he accepts Islam. Sayyidina Umar, law kana nabiyya ba'di lakana Umar. If there had to be a prophet after me, it would be Umar. Umar is around the latter teens or early 20s when he comes into the deen. Same with Zunnurain, the son-in-law of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Usman Ghani radiallahu ta'ala anhu. either latter teens or early 20s, coming into the fold of Islam. Then it came that time when we had to send an army out. Great generals, great Sahaba. By no way are we questioning the mantle of respect of these Sahaba. But on that occasion, Usama bin Zayd radiallahu ta'ala, a young man, 17 to 19 in age, is being given the reign as the general of the army. What is all this telling us? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had time for the youth. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood the youth. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam empowered the youth. And when we think empower the youth, it means that now I got 5 shops, let me give him 1 and see how he runs it. That's also empowerment, but that is monetary empowerment. In our deen, to take our youth further. Look at this one Sahabi, Zayd ibn Sabit radiallahu ta'ala, who is 13 years old. Zayd comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I want to be part of Battle of Badr. Remember, it wasn't easy there. 313, 1,000 that side, ill-equipped, fully equipped. You can see the comparison. It happened before. Zayd, you can't participate. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourages him to go learn Ibrani Zuban. What is the lisan of Ibran? Who are these people? Learn Hebrew. Remember, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not a person that was lettered. Zayd ibn Sabit studied the Syriac language and the Hebrew language, because when the Yahud will come and they make Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sign something, there has to be somebody that reads the agreement. Because many times they turn their back on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam put him in this line, and within a short while he learned the language and he mastered it. Some say about 17 days. What brilliance. Then came the battle of Yamama, where many Muslims were killed, including Huffaz in that Jamaat of Shuhada. And it became a worry that how are we going to protect the Quran Sharif. None other than Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu was given this colossal, giant task of getting the Quran Sharif together, because it has been on a bark, on a skin. You see what great feats have been achieved by the youth. When it came to Musab ibn Umayr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the people of Batha, what we know now as Madinatul Nabi, Madina Sharif, Allah take all of us to the Holy Lands with afiyat. Allah liberate the Holy Lands and protect the Holy Lands and protect the Muslim Ummah at large. Musab bin Umayr was sent. Like how you'll get a Jamaat being sent. This was a one-man Jamaat. And he made the gush. And he did the work of deen. In one solitary year, he changed the entire face of Madina Sharif. A young man. My beloved friends, respected listeners, and those listening over the receivers, we need to understand Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had great amount of love for the youth. And that love was not that he wanted them only to become prosperous in this world. In fact, that was the last of worries. وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. Risk and sustenance will follow a person. It is destined in the heaven. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam even entertains a young man. And this young man, my dear friends, he comes and asks a question. I'm making the long story short. Permit me to commit zina. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam answers him in such an academic way. Whereas if it was a Maulvi of this time, I'm saying it in a layman's terms, hey lighty, don't come waste my time. You're coming to ask for zina in the iftar office, you mad? Nabi alayhi salam never addressed him like this. This shows the time for youth. They're going to ask faulty questions. They're going to do things that are not in line. But you and I have to understand, what was the thinking and the frame of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? That if these people are harnessed, if this youth are taken care of, what will we achieve out of them is unbelievable. I want to quote a senior of mine and all of ours. He had come to our shore many times, passed away now. Hazrat Mufti Zainul Abidin Sahab, alayhimur rahmah, rahmatan wasi'ah, nawwar Allahu marqadahu. Mufti Sahab wasn't an ordinary man. He was a scholar par excellence. Baro ke baad bara hota hai. Seniors' talks are great. He said, if you have to spend, I suppose this talk of his was delivered in England, so we're quoting it on that context. If you have to spend £1 million on the youth, if you have to spend £1 million on a youth, and that £1 million renders it that now he comes on Sirat al-Mustaqim, he comes on the right path, it is still a cheap bargain. My dear friends, how much of effort is taking place on the youth? So many mothers and fathers are saying, I am totally frustrated in talking to him or her. I think so they write off. Oh Maulana, can you give me a taweez? Almost every parent, if I had to bring a box of taweez here and charge 500 and a taweez, I think so I'll leave you a millionaire. Taweez for the child to listen. The idea, my dear friends, is to bring them close and to have the projection of the right intention upon them. We just quoted the verse, قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا فَتَيْ يَذْكُرُهُمْ يُقَالُ لَهُ Ibrahim. We spoke of Ibrahim alayhi salam, if you recall, a few minutes ago. Correct? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Ibrahim alayhi salam is that individual who gets a son after many, many years. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. We blessed him with a son, a boy, who had great amount of tolerance. بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. Thereafter, what does Quran open up to? That this particular Ismail alayhi salam, Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam receives a revelation of his entire generation going up, where Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying, Inni ara fil manami, and I'm seeing in my dream, Anni azbahuk, I am slaughtering you, my son. Fanzur madha tara, ya abatif al ma tu'mar. Oh my father, if al ma tu'mar, do what you have been commanded. What you have been commanded to do it. Then look at this verse. Satajiduni insha'Allahu minas sabirin. Oh my father, you will find me among those who are patient. Ulama kiram draw a point from here. Remember, a Nabi, when he sees a dream, is not like my and your dream. When we see a dream, it's based on what we did during the day. When a Nabi sees a dream, it is a command from Allah. Ibrahim alayhi salam first presents this dream to his son. He didn't say, come boy, where are you going? He doesn't know where we're going. He explains to him, Inni ara fil manam. I am seeing in a dream that I'm making zabah of you. If you open Mariful Quran, Surah Safat, you'll find an academic discussion there. But it's not too intricate. For our bayan purposes, it is quite palatable to understand. Ulama kiram explained that Ibrahim alayhi salam first gave targheeb to his son. He first prepped him up. He first advised him, this is the command of Allah. One thing I also want to bring to mind, that it wasn't that he was slaughtering Ismail alayhi salam when he's about 5 years old. No. Ulama kiram say that this person, Ismail alayhi salam, had become of age, where now he could help the father, he could be on the father's side. In other words, he was beloved. At the time he wasn't an asset as a child, but now he's beloved and an asset. At that time, Ibrahim alayhi salam is being told to take his life. So this prep that he's giving his son, it is the style of the Nabi to encourage the youth in a certain direction, so that when it comes in front of him, there'll be no reservation in the heart. Already my father told me what he's doing to me. It's a command of Allah. My life has to be taken. In reality, Allah Ta'ala just wanted to test him. My dear friends, what is lacking in this ummah? For us to get the good sons that we want, for us to get the marvelous son-in-laws that we want, for society to become healthy, these things don't come from Google. You can't download how to get a pious son. It doesn't come. Amazon won't provide it. Take a Lot doesn't have this. Pious children come from parents who are pious or got pious thoughts and outlooks for piety. So the point that I'm extracting here, and I did say I will come back to Ismail alayhi salam, also mentioned in the Quran, our children need a direction. We as parents are complaining, I can't give this direction. I'm battling to reach him. Maulana, there seems to be a wall, invisible wall. When I talk, I'm talking to myself. You heard this statement before. They say it in Gujarati, "Inhe ke hamaj nahi pare." You don't understand anything. So this targheeb for the young man, if you can't do it at home, then take advantage of the facilities where it can be done. Allah's fazal, Allah's karam, Allah's mercy, Allah's rahmat. That in this very masjid, in just over 24 hours, tomorrow Asr time, there's a youth program going to be taking place here, 2nd of December, tomorrow. And Alhamdulillah, like they're having in in Transvaal, in Gauteng, similar program. From across the board in KZN, youth are going to come in their numbers by the fadl of Allah, not our efforts, not our mashura, not our gush. Allah did it. We just a means. And the numbers of this youth, by the grace of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, as we have seen over the years, I've seen the first program and I'm seeing the last year's program, has grown from a number of 400 escalating to over 2,000, including during the COVID period. The youth want something. Like, na'udhu billah, they will flock to a club to dance the night away. They will go to some astroturf and paddle to play away. When they hear that the youth are amassing and coming together and amalgamating, conglomerating for the sake of Allah, they are ready for this. So my appeal, dear dad, dear granddad, oh beloved uncle, oh neighbor, use this opportunity that is provided for the youth 13 years and above. There's not a kindergarten program now where we bring small little chinikis, Bring this youth to the program. They don't have transport. Provide the transport for them. And come and see the agenda of the program. Immediately after Asr, or as they enter, some refreshment, showing him you welcome. A welcome sign that this is the direction to go. Thereafter, between Asr and Maghrib, sometime overlapping after Maghrib, some karguzari and report of what type of students, some from the university, how they're making effort on deen, some from the high school, how they're making effort on deen, somebody that has been there, done that and has come on the Siratul Mustaqim. So different youth with different styles, as they say, different strokes for different folks. So when these youngsters hear that, hey, you know what, I am also a school-going child, I can gel with this person, let me also do the same thing. So then after Maghrib, Elan will take place, people will be brought closer. And then a full-blown targheeb of Iman and Yaqeen by one of our seniors. And thereafter Tashkil taking place. Who's ready for 4 months? You completed matric. Don't consider this as the time of your life to go for a matric ball and a prom night or whatever it is. There's a time now to thank Allah. To thank Allah that your future is opened up for you. Use your amenities, capabilities and abilities for the sake of deen. 4 months tashkil will be made. Then 40 days tashkil will be made for those who probably are working or still at school, because we have a long vacation. In fact, I met the students in my madrasa. They say, Maulana, we no more go to school. All the papers are finished. Some of them already on holidays. And the parents are saying, what am I going to do with them for 2 months, Maulana? Here is the avenue. Send them in the Jamaat work. Then tashkil made for 20 days and 10 days. Isha will take place and then a sumptuous meal will be presented. So my dear friends, whether I have these sons at home, or I got them in my family, or they are my grandchildren, or if I know of somebody that has somebody, let us have one unanimous inshallah that we'll make effort for this program. In a majma such as this, 1,000, 2,000, whatever the figure is, if you and I make effort on one youth, on one young man, and that man understands his direction. Remember Haji Bhai Paja Rahmatullah Ali was a young man. Maulana Umar Palampuri was a young man. Maulana Yusuf Rahmatullah Ali was a young man. Somebody, Allah blessed him to take him in a certain direction. They became luminaries of the time, and the work they did, maybe put together many jamaats, and scores of people can't do. But the interesting fact is, who is that person that was a catalyst for that person to come on hidayat? How many young people you asked him, when did your life turn and you became an alim? Say, you know, at one stage I was a dancer and a raver and a clubber, or I was just wasting my life. I went from one istima when Hazrat Ji Rahmatullah Ali came, or I went for an istima in Springfield, or somewhere in Siripat grounds, or Newlands, or somewhere in Tills Crescent. After I heard the talk in that bayan, my life changed. And today he's running a Darul Ulum. You and I might not be able to run a Darul Ulum. We can dream of opening up a Hifz class. We can imagine of becoming, maybe we don't have the financial muscle to become so generous to society. But that person will become one that went for Umrah every year. Qiyamah's day will come in front of Allah. Here is a Hajj reward for you, 500 Hajj. Ya Allah, Hajj is once a year. How I got so much of Hajj? I didn't even read Ishraq so much. You know that one boy, you brought him to Hilal program? That boy heard about the importance of obedience of Allah. He qualified in his school. He took some counsel of some senior person. And he did so much of work for Hajj that he sponsored so many people's Hajj who couldn't go. And he did so much of Hajj work. All that reward is coming to you. Ya Allah, I didn't open Hifz class. How come 500 Huffaz are under me? The same answer would be given. Dear brothers, today people are asking the ulama, where can I invest? Must I invest in the country, out of the country, offshore? Who must I give it? Makbul or whatever it is there. Where must I give this thing? Dear brothers, invest behind the youth. You will see the benefit in your own house. One person met me from the South Coast region. He said, Maulana, before I sent this young man into the path of Allah, he really couldn't.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu. Allahu Akbar.